I haven't done one of those in a while and apparently I don't have too much to do already, so here we go. Let's talk about Ju Fufu's kit and how she plays, possible synergies she might have, whether or not she is actually that much of an improvement for Yijuan, and lastly I also want to talk about her weapons and main stat situation, since it isn't as easy as you might think it is. As many of you already know, Ju Fufu is a fire-type stun agent who excels at inflicting daze from off-field using aftershock chain attacks, while also providing various buffs to the team. These buffs in question are 20% chain attack damage, 40% ultimate damage, and up to 50% crit damage, based on her initial attack. Since she is a stun agent, she is also able to hold a 4-piece summit, which means another up to 30% crit damage for the team. Let's very quickly also cover her kit so we actually know what she does and how she works. Ju Fufu doesn't come alone, but with her little pet Hui. Hui is her mechanical tiger who will stay on field even if she isn't, and he will attack nearby enemies about once every 4 seconds. This attack will also generate 20 might, and you just rightfully ask yourself, what is might? Good question, so let's answer it. Ju Fufu has 2 unique resources, might and momentum. Might is displayed right below her health bar and it caps out at 200 points. When Ju Fufu reaches at least 100 might, if she is off field, she will then automatically cast her second chain attack, yes she has 2, and doing so will consume 100 might. Her second resource is momentum and it is displayed right below her HP bar with this little buff icon. Her EX special, ultimate and assist follow-up grant her 3, 6 and 1 momentum respectively, and if she has at least 1 momentum, after using her off-field chain attack, she will then mount her tiger, activating Fury Spin and do her best Garen impression possible. Every Fury Spin will consume 1 momentum, generate 25 might, and she will remain in this state until either no momentum is left or she casts her off-field chain attack. The off-field chain attack is also considered an aftershock. As for her core passive, whenever Ju Fufu casts said off-field chain attack, she will grant all squad members 20% chain attack damage bonus, 40% ultimate damage bonus, and up to 50% crit damage. 20% at its base and an additional up to 30% depending on her initial attack, starting at 2800 and capping out at 3400. Lastly, while she is buffed herself, she will also give herself 50 impact. Lastly, as for her additional ability, she requires either an attack or rupture agent, and when that condition is fulfilled, the maximum decibels will be increased to 4000, and whenever an attack or rupture agent uses an ultimate, she will also refund 300 decibels to them. That is honestly her kit in a nutshell, so let's talk about her weapons. Her signature Roaring Furnace provides a 30% attack main stat, increases the daze dealt by EX specials, chains and ultimates by 28%, and whenever we are using a chain or ultimate that deals fire damage, all squad members' damage dealt is increased by 10%, stacking up at 2 times. Looking at only her signature, it is really not that significant and she has many other options available. However, if you intend on skipping her signature, I hope you are also prepared to either not gain the full 50% crit damage bonus from her core passive, or give up in daze and damage in exchange for it. At this point, I do want to emphasize that it is absolutely not necessary to hit the breakpoint of 3400 attack on her. Every point of attack you can gain towards that goal is a bonus, not a must. Regardless of that, however, maxing out her crit damage bonus while running any weapon which is not her signature is not only extremely demanding in terms of substats, but also comes at the possible heavy cost of giving up a lot of days. Disclaimer, daze calculations are not representative of a real combat scenario, as it ignores any possible teammates as well as enemy attack patterns, which will heavily influence the actual daze and damage dealt. That said, regardless, let's have a look. If you were to run her signature, we are able to run a 2-piece Shockstar Disco with crit rate in slot 4 and impact in slot 6, while still being able to hit the 3400 attack breakpoint pretty much exactly with 14 attack percent and 2 flat attack substats. Given we run attack percent in slot 5, this would average out to 2.8 attack percent rolls per disk drive, or in other words, +2 attack on the display on every disk. This is not unachievable, even if it is on the higher end. This allows her to deal a good amount of damage while also still maintaining a solid daze output. If we are not able to hit 3400 attack here, we can also easily run attack percent in slot 4 and trade a little bit of damage in exchange for the crit damage team bonus. If we were to run Blazing Laurel instead, we can even gain up to 13% more daze than her signature. This however would result in us having to trade the crit rate in slot 4 for attack percent, and we are also now short by about 7.5% crit damage from her core. But that is okay, we will stun faster and it is much easier with Blazing Laurel to actually gain 4 stun windows than with her signature. Looking at Fossil, or any A-rank stun W engine for that matter, we now have to decide between more daze by running Impact in slot 6 or a significantly higher crit damage buff by running attack percent in slot 6. The difficulty here comes from the fact that we are looking at 3400 initial attack and 50% crit rate in an optimal case. The 50% crit rate we want for the 4-piece summit for an additional 15% crit damage, and the up to 3400 attack we would want for the crit damage buff from her core. Hitting both of that while also maintaining a great damage and daze output without her signature is not only unrealistic for most players, it might also simply not be worth it. We are likely much better off trading some of that crit damage in exchange for more daze if that additional daze would grant us an additional stun window. Whether or not that will be the case will depend a lot on the enemy matchup, their mechanics, and obviously also you and how you play. Hence, this is very speculative, very theoretically, and I will dive deeper into that in my guide when it releases. So, what is the TLDR? What do I actually want to say here? It is actually very simple. Does she need her signature? No, she doesn't. She has many other great options and her signature does not even provide the most daze. What it does provide is the ease of build. Her signature is able to allow for the highest possible buff from her core while maintaining a solid daze and damage output. Other weapon options will diminish her damage output, but actually provide more daze in the end, which can make or break a 4th stun window. So essentially here I want to tell you 2 important things. First, be prepared to not get her full buff without the signature. And that is okay, we don't actually necessarily need it. Secondly, you don't need her signature. The 20% damage bonus is a joke at its core anyway, and the only thing it really provides you is a quick and fast way of building her. Emphasis on fast. If you farm disk drives for a bit, you are able to simply make up for what her signature provides while also coming out ahead in terms of days. Play the long game, not the credit card. With that said, let's also quickly talk about her possible synergies and my first impressions of her teams. Since everyone and their mom is talking and thinking about Yijuan right now, let's get that out of the way rather quickly. Ju Fufu is fantastic for Yijuan and significantly improves her score with a very low skill floor on Ju Fufu's side. The B-roll footage here is me playing the team for the very first time without even thinking about managing resources. I simply mashed buttons whenever I could and got a score of about 50,000 versus marionettes. She feels very similar to Trigger in a Yijuan team, except that she does also refund decibels and increases the maximum cap to 4,000, which makes it much easier to not only not waste decibels but also get her ultimates back faster, which leads to another 2 or maybe even 3 additional ultimates over the course of the fight. Very good, I would highly recommend this. For both Evelynn and Soldier 11, Ju Fufu feels more like a worse side grade to lighter rather than an upgrade. We will notice this one being a common trend. While Ju Fufu is certainly the second best option these two have, Lighter's 3-second stun duration extension is very noticeable, especially in Evelynn teams. If you really love Evelynn or Soldier 11, but you do not have Lighter, Ju Fufu is definitely worth thinking about whether or not she is actually a good pickup for these 2 units. But I would not necessarily pull her for these 2 units alone if you have Lighter. With Ju Fufu providing aftershocks, she also pairs somewhat wellish with Soldier 0 Ambi. While she did not perform as Trigger did for me, she feels like she can be a valid substitute for her. This is not only due to Trigger's signature just being much better than Ju Fufu's is, but also Electric and Fire not really sharing weaknesses. This makes Trigger overall stun faster, and with Trigger providing quick assists as well, that also makes keeping uptime on Astral Voice much easier. We can also go for a double stun composition with Trigger and Ju Fufu, which can score approximately evenly with Astra. However, I also really hate playing Sambi specifically into the unknown corruption complex, and I get hit by literally everything, so my scores here might not be the most trustworthy. I guess they are at least relatable. As for Yugo, however, while I don't personally think that Ju Fufu is an actual upgrade over Lycaon, she can serve as a valid replacement if you either don't have Lycaon or he is busy with Ellen. However, she does not replace Lighter in this team. Can she work if you don't have Lighter? Sure, but Yuga and Lighter are basically married, and at this point Lighter has at least 3 wives and 1 husband. Speaking of Lighter's wives, I would argue actually the same for Ellen. While Lycaon or Astra still feel like they are the best option for Ellen, Ju Fufu is at least able to take the 3rd spot, but she is a worse replacement for Lighter. Generally speaking, Ju Fufu feels like an upgrade over Collidor, though that is a pretty low bar to surpass anyway, and a worse side grade from Lighter for Ice and Fire agents. While she takes less field time than Lighter does, Lighter stuns faster, provides more buffs, and most importantly a 3-second stun duration. On the other hand, Ju Fufu doesn't want her signature as much as Lighter does, provides more field time for the current on-field unit, and also allows for 1 or maybe even 2 additional ultimates per run. Depending on the carry, this can be very impactful, Evelynn and Yijuan being prime examples here. Ju Fufu is also able to take the place of Astra in some comps, not that she will provide the same performance as Astra is able to provide, but it does free Astra up and allows her to take the place in other teams. Again, these are just my first impressions. It feels much like Ju Fufu is a great upgrade for Rupture, well, Yijuan specifically as of right now, but not necessarily a fantastic pickup for other teams. She feels like a side grade to other teams rather than an upgrade. But again, that is also only if you already own the other respective units. So for example, Trigger for Sambi and Lighter for Hugo, Ellen, Evelynn or Soldier. Lighter really has quite some value, huh? But with that said, we are at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. I appreciate every one of you and wish you a great day. Peace.